Hello, hello. This is Lexi Bailey with the Wilford Woodruff Papers Foundation, and I'm excited to be here with Steve Wheelwright. Thank you, Steve, for taking some time to chat today.
Glad to be here.
So wonderful. And where are you coming from today?
I live in Oakley, Utah, a little farming town up near Camas on the Weber River. Beautiful place.
Beautiful. Yes. And the snow up there is deep.
It is. We probably have 2 feet still in our yard.
Wow. Well, the conference is coming up on March 4th, and you are one of the speakers. So tell us, what are you speaking about?
Well, I'm speaking about Wilford Woodruff's missionary service, which I'm delighted to do, partly because I love missionary work, and I love Wilford's example of missionary work. But one of the reasons I chose this topic is that most church members, if they serve a mission when they're younger, will tell you later on when they're adults and in leadership positions that much of what they learned, both about how to teach the doctrine, but also about how to lead in the church and in the kingdom, they learned on their mission. I certainly felt that way as a young man and still do. So Wilford is a wonderful example. In the first 12 years that Wilford was a member of the church, he spent almost 7 of those years as a missionary. In fact, 7 different times he was called to serve, and each time he went faithfully. He loved it. He loved being a missionary. He was always talking about it and always willing to open his mouth and expect the Lord would fill it. So I'm just delighted to be talking about that subject.
Tell me a little bit more about your background that makes you so interested in missionary work.
Well, as a young man, I went to Scotland as missionary. I learned a lot. I loved it. In fact, that's why I became a professor, as I love teaching. And that was the part, most missionaries love the teaching the best. And but then 20 years ago, my wife and I had the great blessing of presiding over the London mission in Hyde Park, and we loved that. And then, of course, I served at BYU-Hawaii, where all the students were of missionary age. And often, we'd get into discussions and we'd help them fill out their papers and do all sorts of things to get them on their mission or welcome them back from their mission. Plus, we had lots of sisters at the visitors center there at the temple, and they were always teaching our non-member students. So it was just great. I love being a missionary.
Well, I'm so excited to hear all about this and many more stories you might have. Do you have a favorite Wilford Woodruff story you want to share with us?
Well, I have lots of Wilford Woodruff stories I love.
I bet.
One I think that is really amazing is when he was in England. So remember in 1839, most of the apostles were sent to England to preach. And he went to central England. He was in the potteries area, and he was doing well. He was baptizing people. The day after his birthday is a Sunday, and he preaches 2 sermons in the morning, and then he has a sermon at night, and he stands up to preach, and it suddenly comes into his mind that the Lord wants him to go somewhere else. So he literally tells everybody, I'm sorry, I can't keep my appointments. I've got to leave. This will be my last preaching up here in the potteries area. And I'm going where the Lord sends me. He then travels for 2 days and shows up at the Benbow farm, where within the next 8 months, he baptizes 1,800 people. And clearly that was a huge thing. But the fact that he didn't hesitate to go, even though he was being very productive, he didn't fulfill his appointments. He didn't do anything. He just said, the Lord asked me to go, so I'm going. And I think it's so typical of what Wilford did. If the Lord wanted him to do something, he did it, whether he understood it or not.
That's a great story. And there's so many others like it. I'm excited to hear all of them at the conference. Tell me, what are you most excited about for the conference?
Well, I'm excited to hear what everybody else has to say about Wilford Woodruff as well, because he's just a spectacular example of modern day leadership in the church and building the kingdom in everything he did. I just happened to pick missionary, and it fits with one of the areas that I'm particularly interested in, but I'd love to hear what people say about other aspects of his service. He obviously became the prophet in a very challenging time because of polygamy and because of the laws of the United States that had been passed. And he just did a terrific job. And I want to understand more how he did it and why he did it. And, you know, what the Lord guided him to do so that he'd be ready to do it.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's some viewers that are watching today that have not purchased tickets to the conference yet. So tell them why they should come to the conference.
Well, the theme of the conference is building Latter-day Faith, which is something that President Nelson has invited all of us to do to strengthen our faith. And obviously, we're going to need it. But I think the reason to come to the conference is really to be a favorite saying that one of my counselors in England, David Baxter, always used was he said, you need to instruct, inspire, and motivate. And I think that people who come to the conference are going to get a lot of that instruction, inspiration, and motivation that will help them build their faith. So I'd encourage anybody to come. It's worth the afternoon to really get to know Wilford Woodruff, but also to be personally guided and instructed and inspired so that you can go forward and build the faith of others, those around you, yourself, friends, and be a missionary just like Wilford was.
That is so well said. Thank you so much. Steve, thank you for answering all of my questions and being here today. Everyone, if you have not registered yet or you want to find out any information about the conference, just visit our website, 2023.wilfordwoodruffpapers.org. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you very much.